Okay, welcome everyone to the second session of DCU Ethics and Privacy Week. So just waiting for a few more attendees before we start. So in case you don't know me, my name is Brian Davis and I'm Assistant Professor from the School of Computing at the ADAPT SFI Research Centre. And today I'm delighted that Dr. Kolawole Adebayo, who is a CareerFit Marie-Curie MSCA fellow. So it's a special type of Marie-Curie fellowship, which is co-funded by Enterprise Ireland and the European Union. Today, he's going to present his research project on leveraging AI for bias-free recruitment. And the project is run in collaboration with a Irish high-performance startup, Datalive, who I've collaborated with in the past. And Datalive work in the area of applying language processing and AI to automate the recruitment process. And specifically, the topic today is on how to de-bias, to use AI for removing bias during the recruitment process. So over to you, Kolawole, if and when you're ready. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for the introduction, Brian. Once again, I'll be talking on the topic leveraging AI for bias-free recruiting. And like Brian already introduced me, Kolawole Adebayo. I'm a Marie-Curie CareerFit Marie-Curie Fellow, which is a co-fund by Enterprise Ireland.
A little bit of connection.
Of course, I'm being hosted up. Very briefly, I'm just going to be giving a kind of high-level overview of the project library. Again, like I said, which is being funded by Marie-Curie co-fund with Enterprise Ireland. Specifically, I'll be talking about what unconscious bias is in recruiting, and give examples of some types of bias in recruiting. And I'll talk about how technology can help to solve the challenge of unconscious bias. And I'll give a snapshot of the research that currently working on. With respect to mitigating unconscious bias in hiring. And of course, I'll just conclude by of course of highlighting like the limitation of the existing system. So what is unconscious bias? A lot of studies, science is that our minds will make decisions intuitively, even before we are aware of it. Several studies have also shown that no one is actually immune to implicit bias. Implicit bias is, by the way, another word for conscious bias. As human, we like to think that we are rational. We like to think that logical arguments drive our decision making. But of course, a lot of our judgment, a lot of the decisions we make are actually impacted by our worldview, are actually impacted by what we've come to learn from societal, maybe societal stereotype, from our upbringing, from the people we relate with, from the environment where we grew up, and all that. So this constitutes some kind of unconscious activity in our brain, which affects our judgment, how we see things, how we look at people, how we determine our preference, how we make judgment, how we decide things. And hiring, unfortunately, is not immune to these unconscious bias. So in terms of hiring, unconscious bias happen when people, they, based on some assumption, they kind of have some preference for, people from particular, group of people, or maybe they have some preference for people, so, who look like them, or they have preference for people from a particular gender, or, these are some of, like, these are elements of not really intended harmful activity, but these are, stereotypes that one has been able to learn over time, which unfortunately can always cloud their, sound judgment, their fair judgment. And, it constitutes a lot of problem with hiring, because it can always create some kind of level playing field. It will make hiring to be unfair, because quality candidates can always be excluded at the expense of maybe less quality candidates. Of course, like, it also more or less kind of create a kind of homogeneous, workforce, homogeneous working environment whereby people, that looks the same, or people that act the same, or people, that come from the same background will most likely dominate the society. And of course, this impedes some, it impedes innovation, it impedes productivity, it also impedes profitability for organization. So it's very important, for, for, people, especially in the recruiting domain, to take conscious, look at, unconscious bias, and also important for researchers to come up with, application system softwares that can help, stakeholders in the recruiting domain to be able to understand, the challenge of unconscious bias, to be able to pinpoint, the possible instances where they could, where their sense of reasoning, where their judgment could be clouded by this unconscious bias, so that they can take appropriate action. Very briefly, I'd just like to talk about the common bias in HR. Of course, for example, as can be seen in the slide, just looking at the CV, someone, thinking that if, the candidates already worked, in a place where I already worked before, yeah, because I know that it's not easy to even pass the interview, to even get a job in that particular company, then the candidate must be really good, and I think I have to employ the candidate, without even, really even giving some kind of, fair assessment to the candidate. That kind of halo effect will have already been cloud the judgment of, the recruiter, and will most likely want to prefer such candidate. Another kind of bias is also the confirmation bias. So, so for example, if somebody worked in this particular group, I know they are. So I know their group, they are highly productive. Maybe they publish a lot of paper. Then that means that student must be really good if he had his PhD from that particular. It's a kind of also confirmation bias, and this also happens a lot in the recruiting domain. Another one which is very common is ability bias. So people always wanting people who looks like them, or people who do things that they do, or who engage in some activity that they also engage in. So maybe somebody who likes sports will most likely want to, have preference for somebody who looks sporty, or somebody who, maybe someone who is, like sometimes like a white person will, may prefer working with a white a white person rather than like a candidate of color. So these are some of examples. Of course, the most notable ones are the gender bias, which I'll further split down into masculine and feminine bias. So especially studies have shown that a lot of time women are excluded, women are excluded in giving, equal chances, like their male counterparts, because maybe some men prefer, to work with men because they feel that men are stronger, men are more intelligent, and lots of that. Of course, there are a lot of cases out there which exemplifies gender bias, either to the favor of men or to the disfavor of women, or the other way around. Another one that I will still talk about is stereotype bias. But again, all these kind of bias, it just speaks to what may happen if people really don't. People who actually don't mean to harm people, who actually don't necessarily mean to exclude good candidates, but because of the stereotypes, because of the societal learning that they've accumulated over the years, and these things can always be clouded in judgment, and they find out that they give preference to other candidates, not on the basis of their quality, not on the basis of how fit they are, how suitable they are to the role, not on the basis of their competence, but just on some superficial assumption that they follow a particular pattern, that they'll be good for the job. So again, we cannot really look at unconscious bias in hiring without looking at the hiring funnel. So hiring is not something that just happens in a vacuum. It's usually like a sequence of events, which starting from the awareness, where organizations maybe they prepare like a job advert, they want to inform the public that some positions have opened and people are allowed to submit application and all that, and they intend to generate interest in the public by crafting some kind of stories about the job. They want to define the kind of the attributes, the qualities that they want in the potential candidate. They also want to talk about maybe some remuneration and all that. So this, both the awareness and the attraction phases, just merely involves the process whereby candidates they get job adverts and they can now put forward their application. But of course, even in the attraction phase, studies have shown that even from the phrasing of job adverts, some candidates can be dissuaded from even applying, because if, for example, the phrasing, the language used in writing the job description, the way the job description, the way the potential candidate is described, or the way the company actually portrays their culture, or the way the expected attributes of the candidate that the organization is looking for is described, it actually can tell a lot about whether a candidate will feel that they are qualified for that particular role, or will feel that they'll be able to fit into the culture of that particular organization. And a lot of studies have gone into that, especially focus have been on gender bias in job adverts, whereby some words have been found to actually work in favor of male candidates, and some words are found to actually work in favor of female candidates. So usually a list of words have always been coded. Some some are coded as masculine words and some are coded as feminine words. And studies have shown that, job adverts which contain more masculine coded words, female candidates tend to, feel that they are not suitable for those job roles, and the number of female applicants to those kind of job reduce significantly. The same is applicable to men when feminine coded words occur frequently in the job advert more than the masculine coded word. Studies have shown that female applicants actually get more interested in applying to such job than male candidate. But even other than the attraction phase of hiring, equally important is also the application phase, whereby candidates submit their application, and then maybe some machines can, some reviewers will have to, look through all the list of applications submitted. They create a kind of rank. They kind of create a kind of, a rank to show, the suitability of the candidate. But of course, in looking at, the candidate's application, because of the unconscious bias that I mentioned before, some candidates may also, some recruiters or some reviewers or some, like the HR personnel may also, they tend to favor candidates, based on the different kind of, bias categories that I mentioned before. So studies have shown, for example, that when you have more female HR personnel reviewing applications, they tend to, select more female applicants. So if they are going to be shortlisted, say, for example, 10 applicants for interview, there is potential that more than 60% will be, not less than 60% of such applicants will be female. The same is also applicable to men. So the attraction phase, the application phase, and of course, most especially the interview phase, are very critical in terms of, in terms of highlighting unconscious bias and how unconscious bias can actually, affect, judgment and exclude, very quality candidates, even from getting job that they seemingly qualify for. So to actually, make hiring to be more fair, to be more equitable, it's very important to look through the funnel and to try and look at each of these stages where, what elements actually cause bias across each of these stages, and what can be done to actually, empower stakeholders, to empower the actors, especially like the HR personnel and recruiters, to easily note, maybe information, some elements that could potentially bias their judgment, in order for them to take proactive step in addressing that. So again, I've talked about types of bias in the HR, but there is another kind of bias generally, which is algorithm bias. I just want to say that I'm not really going to be going into the algorithm bias. So for example, there's a whole lot of research on machine learning bias, or a whole lot of research on bias in, for example, language model and all that, which again, they are also a product of, structural biases, a product of biases, because they are acquired. So for example, if, for example, Google patented a system, to recruit, to review applications of candidates for into their companies, and they found out that after some analysis, they found out that a lot of the time the system was actually selecting over 85% male candidate and female candidate. after further analysis, it was found out that the data which was used to train the model actually has like more than 90% are trained from male candidate data rather than female candidate attributes. So the model intuitively learned to associate that notion of strong or good candidate, or that notion of company fit to more male candidate because it has seen more male data than female data. So I'm not going to be talking about algorithm biases as such, because looking deep, it still stems from biases that are people-centric, biases actually caused by people's action. Maybe from the way we use language, if the common stereotypes which we express in our daily language use, if we use those tests to train language model, then definitely the language model will also acquire such biases. So I'm not going to be talking about that. Instead, I'll be focusing on specific bias in the recruiting, especially at the attraction phase, and what system can be developed to actually address that. So again, I'll just give, of course, because technology is not a vacuum, so there are a lot of systems already, commercial systems already building, applications, to solving the issue of DEI in the recruiting sector. So for one, I'll just give like 3 or 4 spotlight systems. So the first one is Diversely, which of course, Diversely really doesn't look into hiring per se, but it helps organizations to actually keep track of their DEI metrics. So it helps them to benchmark, maybe, for example, the number of candidates, the number of employees they have from different groups, and the same thing is applicable to diversity. So it gives organization that power for them to know maybe how they are doing compared to all other companies within the same business vertical. So say, for example, a company like Google will be able to benchmark their data against other technology giants like maybe Microsoft and other. So they'll be able to know, okay, compared to company XYZ, how many Black people do we have? How many Asian do we have? Out of the Asian, how many women do we have in Asia, who are Asian, who are heading some managerial position and other? So it gives them that visibility, and they can always take appropriate action. Another one, but with respect to hiring, a company like Pymetric is actually developed a system using gamification technology. Essentially, what they do is they are, like candidates are able to interact with, more or less like playing game, interact with their software, and it kind of, evaluates, the soft skills of candidates, via their interaction with their game app, and it can better rank some candidates, using their AI technology, AI gamified technology to actually determine some candidates that could better. But then another one is applied, because again, most of studies have shown that over 85% of job are still based on CV application. So if over 85% of jobs are still based on CV application, then it's very important to also look into CV, which is the first point of call in hiring for them. So how can we remove bias even in CV? Because studies have shown that simple information like even the name of candidate, like where the candidate studied and all that, can actually be cloud, the judgment of of the recruiter. So this particular organization, what their systems helps to anonymize CV. So it's able to remove information like names, like the sex of candidates, which makes the candidate to not be easily identifiable. And then people, actually review, they can now focus more on skills that the candidate possess rather than, all these obtuse information. And of course, there are also some applications, focusing more on job description, helping people to identify, whether their job description is gender inclusive or is ethnic inclusive and all that. An example of this one, the example of that is Gender Decoder, which is actually a free tool. But then the problem with these systems is that they focus more on word list. So again, like I mentioned before, there are, so for example, there is a kind of overfixation on gender bias, and even in literatures, in a lot of research work, people tend to actually focus more on gender bias. Perhaps that is more pronounced than the other kind of bias. So this particular system actually have a compiled list of words, and what it does is to count the number of words from either the gender coded vocabulary and the masculine coded vocabulary and the feminine coded vocabulary, and based on the word that has more words. Based on the group that has more words, it can say that, okay, so the job advert, because it has 7 words from the feminine coded and 3 words from the masculine, then it's more feminine. So it's not gender balance or something like that. But of course, I'm still going to highlight, the issue with that kind of system. Now, Textile is an improved version of gender decoder. Why gender decoder is a free tool, Textile is a full-fledged commercial system. It essentially, it does the same thing like gender decoder. It also, captures, gender sensitivity of a job ad, or for performance review or feedback, employee feedback and all that. Essentially, it's also based on, vocabulary. So it also it uses a list of all these gender coded words in order to point the attention of HR official writing job, and to look at some of this one, and it can give them substitute, like a replacement that they can use instead of using those words. Now, the limitation of now, in the context of the project, or in the context of this talk, I'll be focusing on removing gender bias at the attraction phase. And when I say removing gender bias, I mean removing bias at the attraction phase. And when I say removing bias, or let me say not removing bias, I highlighted bias at the attraction phase. When I say I highlighted bias at the attraction phase, I mean the first point of call in recruiting, which is actually organization trying to get the attention of the public. And in trying to get the attention of the public, they want to craft job adverts. So they want to craft it's essential to have a job advert which is gender neutral, which is inclusive in terms of ethnicity, in terms of all the other possible categories of bias. Now, the obvious limitation of some of these systems, which are working, especially the last two that I mentioned, like Textile and the gender decoder, is that they are more or less focused on gender bias. Now, bias is not a dichotomy. So there are a whole lot of possible element that could actually dissuade people from applying. So, for example, if as a Black person, if I want to apply for a job, and if I feel like maybe the job advert tends to use some words which I feel wouldn't make me as a Black person fit into the work culture of the company, then I may not necessarily apply for that particular role. So it's not necessarily gender. There are a whole lot of other bias category that can be looked at, which these systems have exempted. Another problem is like any vocabulary-based system, it's kind of limited because language is dynamic. Language keeps evolving. And because language keeps evolving, you have the onerous task of always updating the vocabulary, which is more or less impracticable. So these systems, they may not likely scale. And of course, another, language is something quite sophisticated. And so a lot of times, those systems, they don't take into consideration the role of context. Of course, we know that the meaning of words is impacted by the meaning of surrounding words. There's a whole lot of work on distributional hypothesis and distributional analysis. We tend to say that, like, for example, a sentence is composed of the meaning of all of these words. So in actually looking at the meaning of words, it's easy for human to assume the meaning of word because we naturally build context into an abstract meaning representation. But for machine, it's way difficult. So this system, without factoring the context, is, a lot of time they give some kind of false positive flagging, where situation where it's not necessarily biased, but because those words have been coded or those words have been observed to sometimes leads to, those types of biases. Such system thinks that once you spot those words in the job advert, then they are most likely biased, which not necessarily seems to be the case. So, for example, the concept of synonyms, whereby a word could have you could have several meanings for several kind of word with the same meaning. It's very difficult for this vocabulary-based system to capture synonym, or where you have morphologically rich languages whereby you have a lot of inflection, whereby the meaning in a particular context will change based on the way it's being used. This kind of system will obviously fail. Another one is polysemy, whereby a word could have different multiple meanings. So this kind of vocabulary based system have obvious limitation, which is what the library project actually, one of the goals of library project is actually to, the hypothesis is that you really cannot one cannot really use a vocabulary based approach to determine. You cannot spot words based on like gender coded word, or maybe some ethnically coded word, mere featuring a job advert, or mere featuring a CV, or mere featuring any HR related document, without actually looking at the context, looking at the meaning, the context in which the word is used, in order to actually understand whether such words is used in a biased way or not. Or not. So what we have done is to first, what we want to do is we want to build a system that understands language, that is able to receive, analyze any text, maybe any HR related document, and it will be able to, based on the semantics of of maybe the words or the phrases and their contextual dependency, they can determine whether such words belong to different categories of bias. So again, unlike most of the systems that are focused on gender bias, we have expanded the scope of the bias types. So you can see on the screen, those on race, age, and LGBTQ related stuff. So what we have done is to, use like a corpus-driven approach in order to also derive some kind of, term coding. And by corpus-driven approach, we trained a simple, word embedding model or word to fact model on, a million job posts and some anonymized CVs. And essentially, word to fact is just, one of the earliest, word embedding approaches, which is also based on distributional hypothesis, and essentially uses a very shallow neural network, to learn, the context of a word, and so looking at a particular word, it can predict maybe the context of the word, the surrounding words within a defined window. There are two different fashions actually. There is this bag of word approach whereby it can take a word and predict, it can take the window of a word and predict a word. And another one, which is Kribran, it can take a word and predict the surrounding word. When you train this algorithm, it's able to actually approximate some sense of relatedness of words, such that if we take a word, from the maybe feminine coded word, and we query, this language model, it can, because what it does is for each of the word in its vocabulary, it generates a vector, which is just like some, not random numbers, some numbers according to, with a fixed dimension. The number, dimension is just like the length of the vector, and those numbers actually, gives us some kind of approximation of the semantic of that word. Now, when we compare, the vectors for any particular input word to all the vectors in the vocabulary, we can, and we rank, we do simple similarity like cosine similarity, we just, compute like vector distance. We can rank these vectors and it will give us, some words which are more related to that input word. And what we have done is to use that approach, to populate, like the gender, coded term, which some studies have used in the past, and to also, open up, some new terms which we have coded respectively for some of these other group of biases. So now, just to buttress on the role of the context, so I'll just show like two examples. The first one is employee-owned company strong. Now, the word strong is actually a masculine coded term, which for most studies it's shown that men are more attributable to, strong is more attributable to men because men are more perceived to be stronger than women, even though this may not be true all the time. Now, using some of the systems which do not, factor in context, the way in which strong is, because strong only qualifies an object, qualified an ESOP program, is actually not biased, but those systems will have, say strong because, strong is attribute, always attributed to men. It will still be seen as if this is biased, whereas the word strong is not used in a biased way in the first example. Compared to the second example, where the word strong, is actually used in a biased way, because it actually refers to a leader, which is a person. And we know that if it's referred to a person, we know that men are more attributable to be stronger than women. So we can say that the word strong, in which the context in which strong is used in the second example, it's biased, even if it's subtle. Now, another sample, just to again buttress the role of context, is this one. Our client is looking for an understanding, sympathetic individual. Women are, deemed to be more understanding, deemed to be more sympathetic. Well, maybe this is not always true, but in general, say that women are more understanding and sympathetic compared to men. But of course, in the context in which this is used, because it's actually, you describe, is an attribute of a person. So we can say that, yeah, that word, it's the phrase understanding and sympathetic individual is biased given this context. Now, compared to the other one, where you have strong understanding of strong understanding of a phenomenon. So in this case, this is used, the word understanding, or even the word strong, is used in an unbiased way. Now, the problem with some of these systems is that they will not have factored in the context, and they will have, just outrightly, project this word to also be biased. Now, this is what, library projects wants to actually correct. Now, in order for us to be able to understand that contextual, the contextual differences, then we will have to have a deeper understanding of the semantics of language. And to do that, then we will need some kind of language models which builds contextual information into their understanding. And to do that, we have trained some language models, which are, both okay, so like a BERT-like language model and GPT language model, and not to be too technical. Essentially, the one on the left, which are BERT-like language model, what they do is to, given some word you want to mask, particular number of words in a sequence, and then the objective of the model is to be able to predict the masked word. So again, it lays some kind of contextual interdependency among the words, and this gives a better approximation of semantics than non-contextual language model. The other one on the right hand is actually like the GPT model. These are also regressive language model. Essentially, their objective is to predict, given a history, given a sequence of words, can you predict the most appropriate word that can follow that particular word? So the objective is to predict the word that can follow another word. And studies have shown that these models, which are actually built on transformer architecture, they're able to show a very good dexterity in language understanding, and performed very strongly in a lot of downstream natural language processing and natural language understanding tasks. Now,
sorry, Kolawole, sorry to interrupt you. It's a really interesting talk, and I'm just conscious of the time that we're coming up to 1:45. So would we be able to leave a couple of minutes for questions, if possible? Because I'm sure people have a lot of questions for to ask you. So just wondering, conscious of time at the moment.
Okay.
Thanks.
So I'm just trying to up in 2 minutes. So essentially, what we are doing is now I'm sure everyone is aware of ChatGPT, which is like a rave of the moment in terms of language model. Essentially, what we are trying to do now is to use ChatGPT to for knowledge distillation, and using prompt-based learning, we can induce knowledge from ChatGPT, which is a very strong, a very huge model, which has been trained on a whole lot of document, and of course trained using human feedback. And using the human feedback, we also aim to now train a reinforcement learning model. We're trying to train a reinforcement learning model also with human feedback. In this case, the human feedback we'll be using will not necessarily be strictly human feedback. It will be a mixture of both machine feedback and human feedback, whereby we are leveraging on the knowledge distilled from ChatGPT. Because why is this very important? Instead of just, I think we have to move from just indicating or highlighting biases to actually giving stakeholders, giving the practitioner, following information about why something is maybe wrong and why they need to take action. So instead of, say, for example, just say strong is masculine, decisive leader is masculine, I think an ideal model will be able to give a strong rationale, a very good rationale, which the stakeholder can now take to actually do some kind of human fine-tuning of even their action, or even do some kind of reorientation of what they're trying, what action they are taking. So essentially, now we have to also be aware of the limitation of AI, even in recruiting and others, because of course AI is not something definitive. It still needs some kind of revival, even with the recent advances that we have to understand the risk of also bias that these AI technologies can also encode from the data in which they have been trained, the stereotypes in the data in which they have been trained. Also, when developing like HR application, I have to also be conversant about the role of imbalanced data, how we can also perturb the performance or the judgment of and the model. And essentially, to understand that the goal is not to develop application or systems or model that will replace human, but actually system that can work hand in hand with human to actually make them to be more productive. I think I'll just stop here, and I'll be happy to entertain any questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Kolawole. That was a really interesting presentation, and I know it's a very complex issue, very interdisciplinary, and it's hard to pack it all in, but I think you did a great job. Thank you so much. So I've one and go straight into questions.